everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. I'm Kidest, and this is where I share tips, insights, guidance, the latest findings from the fields of physics to support the understanding that you can co-create, attract, and manifest a life that you truly enjoy. In this post, I actually want to talk a bit more about the chakra anatomy, the energy field anatomy that I've begun to explain on my channel. Particularly in this post, I want to take a look at the two main energy currents that are talked about across multiple traditional esoteric fields, whether we're looking at Hinduism, Taoism, Western metaphysical teachings, Japanese or traditional Chinese medicine models of the energy field and the energy body, you'll often come across the description of two main currents of energy flow. One that goes upward from the root chakra to the crown chakra, and one that comes downward from the crown chakra to the root chakra. The importance of understanding these two flows of energy is that this is basically the infrastructure of how life progresses, how life evolves, how manifestation occurs, how the immaterial or the higher dimensional energy forms of life become manifested events, manifested organisms, manifested experiences, and the like. So these two main currents of flow are described as the reason for why cosmic existence is as cosmic existence appears to be. And it's really important to understand these flows of energy, both as it applies to how your own energy body, energy system works, as well as how the, sort of cosmic energetic infrastructure works, if you will. Because one of the things you'll learn to understand is that what we see as being the processes of life from an embodiment perspective can be understood to be the general framework or template or blueprint for how life unfolds, from the non-physical, the unmanifest, to the physical, the manifested. So I wanted to touch on these two main flows of energy, how they're traditionally described, how it helps to understand them, to make sense of them within our modern experiences. Some of these teachings were developed thousands of years ago in a framework and understanding of the world that is vastly different from the world we live in now. So it helps to update your understandings of these descriptions so that they fit within the framework you're in now. They fit within the worldview, the world experience that you have now. Now, typically the ascending current, sometimes it's associated as being yang energy or the divine masculine, the masculine energy, or solar. It's described as a number of definitions that present it as being a source of heat, a source of expansion, reaching up toward the sky, if you will, reaching out toward the cosmos. And in spiritual traditions, it's associated with spiritual awakening into higher consciousness and the like. Regardless of the sort of bent of interpretation you move toward, the essential characteristic of that ascending current, that upward current that goes from the root chakra to the crown chakra, is its growth, its expansion. I personally like referring to it as the expansion current, if you will, because it's about you reaching new levels of understandings, new levels of insights that are more life-rich. The more you begin to integrate empowered ideas of self and other, of self and world, of self and cosmos, the more integrated, expansive ideas you begin to integrate, the more you are expanding in your consciousness. If we think of the sort of developmental stages of the human being, if you will, going from infancy to childhood to adolescence to adulthood, the changes, the cognitive sort of self-regulation changes that individual experiences through those developmental stages is a manifestation of that upward current. the way that a toddler sees the world is significantly different from the way a child sees the world. The way a child sees the world is significantly different from the way an adolescent sees the world. The world that the adolescent perceives is significantly different than the world the adult perceives. Typically, a well-developed adult human being has a more complex understanding of the way the world works. That understanding, that ability to hold complexity in your thinking, is an expression of that upward expansion current that moves from the root chakra to the crown chakra and allows you to entertain more complex ideas, preferably, ideally, more empowered ideas, more inclusive ideas, more expansive ideas. The ability to think as a human being within a city is different from the ability to see the world and think yourself as part of a global human family, if you will. So that perspective, that move from a national identity to a global identity, for instance, would be the outcome of that ascending root chakra to crown chakra current. So that ascending current, that upward moving energy, is all about the expansion of consciousness to whatever degree you imagine it. If you want to expand beyond, being a planetary individual, if you will, someone who thinks about planetary well-being, that move would be moving into more cosmic perspective. So from my perspective, it's not a movement of consciousness, movement of insights and understandings and experiences that caps out at that global perspective. The nature of consciousness, as I understand it, is that it's infinite, it's vast. And for as long as you are creatively involved in the process of your own growth and expansion, there is no upper limit to the insights you can gain about life. There is no upper limit. There is no, sort of peak point wherein you're like, I have figured out existence. I have figured out cosmic existence. I know all. If you think in terms of omniscience, omnipresent, and the characteristics that are described to cosmic consciousness or higher consciousness or expansive consciousness, there is no cap to what you can come to know about life accurately from perceptual systems that work beyond the physiological system. So one of the effects or experiences of that expansion current, that upward moving current, is you do begin to develop higher sense perceptions, ways of perceiving reality that rely on your chakra system, your higher dimensional perceptual system, and you begin to gain insights about life and cosmic existence and the different frameworks that support or can support embodied experience and so much more. So that upward moving current, that's typically associated with heat, expansion, yang energy, or the divine masculine, or the various other, terms that have been applied to it, is all about becoming more in your identity, becoming more in your understanding, becoming more in your insights, becoming more in your influence, becoming more, essentially. So that's the upward current. Now, the downward current is typically associated with terms like the divine feminine, the yin energy. The essence of that energy is moving downward, and it's bringing that higher dimensional stuff that you gain from the move toward expansion into embodied existence. So I like to call it the embodiment current. It's a grounding current. It's the manifesting current. It's a downward flow of energy, a downward moving flow of energy that grounds, that solidifies, that crystallizes the, expansiveness that you've accessed. One of the reasons that evolution occurs, one of the reasons that progress happens and stabilizes and stays, becomes a new normal, one of the reasons that growth and expansion and evolution become lived experiences, one of the reasons why things now don't look like what they were 100 years ago, for instance, is because of that downward moving current. It's the manifesting current that allows reality to change, reality to stabilize, and reality to stay fixed to a certain degree into the solid experience that you have in your everyday life. The reason that the ground feels as stable and sturdy as it does is because of this downward moving current that goes from the crown chakra to the root chakra. It's really important to understand that these flows of energy aren't two different energies. From my perspective, it's the same life force. It's the same potential that actualizes into different phases of these two flows. So what we recognize as the upward moving current that's been named different names is the same energy that's coming down as the downward moving current. They're complementary forces, they're not opposing forces, and they're not different in the sense that they're separate. From my perspective, from my insights, from my understanding, they're kind of different phases of the same pulsation of life, if you will. Life expands so that it can ground that expansion into the reality that we live. So we have tended, human beings have tended to label these in sort of discrete, concrete labels, by saying this is masculine, this is feminine, this is, kundalini shakti, this is Shiva's grace, there's a number of different variations that presents these two energies as being two separate and distinct energies. And from what I've gained in my understanding of how life works, there may be differences in what the energies accomplish, but they're not different in the sense of being separate and opposing. So I've moved away from the idea that what creates life is opposition and tension, and have come to understand that what creates life is actually an integrated flow of complementary forces, that things brilliantly work together to make life the experience that it is, to make embodied life, to make higher dimensional experiences the integral experiences that they are. So that's sort of the insights that I've gained in my exploration of both of these sort of experiential flows of energy. And they work together, or they work as one so beautifully that we're able to have the kinds of experiences that we can have on life, on Earth, in the cosmos, and likely beyond. So I wanted to describe those two energies. It's really useful to update our understandings and insights about how we work, about, the nature of reality, so that the insights we move into are supporting our ability to thrive, our ability to co-create outcomes that reflect the complementary nature of the various forces that are, making life behave the way that it behaves. And I highly encourage developing constructs, developing explanations, developing descriptions that show a differentiation that works in unison, if you will, that different energies or different forces don't have to mean opposition and tension. Differentiation can create the kind of unified movement that creates immense magic in how life behaves and life evolves here on Earth and wherever else life is doing what life does. So I wanted to, bring that understanding into the reflections and insights I'm sharing on the chakra system, and really developing empowered ideas about how our own energy systems, as well as sort of the cosmic unfolding of life, works. The insights I've gained and what I intuit about being able to influence reality at a fundamental level that I talk about, what quantum biological human beings can do. We really need constructs and insights and containers, if you will, conceptual containers that allow us to observe reality, that allow us to observe present and future events in ways that creates really inspiring flows, really fulfilling flows, really collaborative experiences of, that differentiated experience, that individuality coming together to cooperatively create beautiful outcomes. And that understanding comes from recognizing that there aren't competing forces, there aren't opposing forces. The fundamental nature of reality is built on these differentiated forces that work beautifully in a complementary fashion. And the more our concepts allow us to understand that, the more we can come together in like fashion.
If you enjoyed this tip on deliberate creation, personal development, consciousness evolution, be sure to visit my website for books, courses, and more to help you in your personal development and personal transformation journey.